get yourself a ticket, get with a friend, and make sure you hop on this roller coaster April that Matt and I are a big part of. Cubs win again.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making Locked On Cubs your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like the video, and comment anything below. And today's episode is presented by Monopoly Go. We admit it, we have a competitive side, and we're big fans of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the Apple or Google Play Store. Cubs defeated the Diamondbacks 5-3 on Wednesday to take the series 2 out of 3 and are now 11-7 on the season. The win was a big-time response following a crazy game Tuesday in which the Cubs lost 12-11 in 10 innings. And that followed a crazy game Monday when the Cubs won 3-2 in 11 innings. Sam, we're only 18 games in, but we can say without question, this really has been a wild start, as highlighted by this most recent series, to say the least, to start the 24 season for the Cubs.
Yeah, I can't remember an April with this type of ups and downs, injuries, highs, lows. And, after all of it, it's an 11-7 group. And, we'll work backwards. Let's start with Wednesday afternoon's rubber match, and then we could work back to Tuesday night's Carnival game. Wednesday afternoon, just another example of the bounce back with this team. And really, this is a positive and a negative, but, Wisniewski and Thompson, we'll see what happens with Ben Brown. We'll see what happens with Cade, but Wisniewski's just better as a reliever. Like it's just, he is. And I think the Cubs have this predicament of we don't want to give up on the young man as a starter. That's why we traded for him. But his best asset right now is to come in, max effort, and help this team. I mean, he won the game today. It was his win. It was his game. He was tremendous, and he's just better as a starter. Better as a reliever. I was one game off on the Bellinger call. It's great to see him starting to swing it. He had a big home run, and Tauchman was good to see him have a good game. Dansby Swanson had 2 hits today, but both of the kind of cheap variety. He kind of still looks lost to me at the plate. But it was a great win. And, it's impressive to me, and it hasn't gone unnoticed to me that they've won both their games right after disaster type losses, which I think is a really good trait. And Ian Happ even said so about a week ago on the score. And so did Nico Horner, by the way. He was on with Spiegel a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, he's like, Spiegel said, hey, I know you guys don't respond to those losses like fans do. You'll just move on. And Nico actually corrected him and
said they do.
Yeah, he's like, no, it does. It does.
Yeah.
It's just we just don't show it. So, it shows you, these guys are human too, and those losses take a lot out of you. I think, a 5-4 road trip, just judging the trip itself, is a massive success.
Especially after the first game.
Yeah. Obviously, though, a couple of the losses were crazy, which we're going to get to, and maybe how to, have a solution there. But the big thing I'll say, and then I'll pass it along to you, Matt, is I think, we're all guilty, obviously, of just getting very involved in this. And there's nothing, I don't even think guilty is the right word, because there's nothing wrong with it. But I think last year, and not just the September collapse, I'm not just talking about that. I'm just talking about the way the season was designed, where, remember early in the year, it was, hey, it's a 100-game season. And then if we're not playing well at the trade deadline, they're going to sell. So that overemphasized every game. And then after they didn't sell, after they had that run, remember it was like a 10-game run where I think they won, was it all of them or 9 out of 10, something like that. And then all those games were so high stakes because we didn't want to sell at the deadline. Then after we didn't sell at the deadline, every game became a must win. And I think that's just kind of carried over into this season, where the stakes just seem a little bit too high. And this is obviously coming from me, who reacts very much to these games. But you have to understand it's a different manager, it's a different team, and albeit I understand it's a sensitive spot because the same things that plagued this team last year are plaguing them this year. We've got to give them some time to figure this stuff out because they've had a ton of injuries and some guys that they're really relying on aren't producing.
Even if you didn't want to go the route of bringing in last year, you could just say simply they've entered the ninth inning multiple times and they've lost.
Right.
And if you really wanted to simplify the process there. But yeah, there's a lot of consequences, especially down in the bullpen that we're going to get to that, as it keeps trending this way, even though it's this early, we could paint a picture of worry based on evidence from last year. Hayden Wisniewski's pitching performance Wednesday was the best of the season, according to Craig Counsell. To be down to your last at-bats Monday and win, then the Diamondbacks do it the very next day, and then you're down early in this game Wednesday and you win. I do like to see that response. And the Happ and Horner quotes, to me, they did stand out on the score because these games do matter to them. They find value, especially early in the season, and they find value in responding. And, not for Coach Cozy to come out too much here, but when you see that in a team, as you said, Sam, a trait, I do think that counts for something. And sure. I just have to wonder, yes, I'm optimistic, but I have to wonder, does that mean that the best days are ahead? That the best things, the better days, the better games, and ultimately what this team could be, it is out there. And despite all the challenges and despite all the struggles, despite all the absences, because for as steady as the offense has been for the most part, and great to see Bellinger and Horner heating up and Michael Busch showcasing, what he can do.
Can't believe they walked Morel ahead of him.
The bullpen is still in shambles. I will say, outside of Kyle Hendricks, which is a huge caveat that really we shouldn't make, but we're going to, just in terms of the format of this episode, so we're going to talk about him later. But the starting rotation has been steady for the most part too.
Just not deep enough in your ball games.
It's not deep enough. Yeah. And again, it has a domino. Right. And so I do think the biggest question still is when the ball turns over from starter to reliever. Meanwhile, enjoying the good wins, the responses, and realizing who actually is on the roster, who's not, and that they're 4 games over 500 going back to Wrigley.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue. So let's pivot into Tuesday night's game.
Oh boy,
because we recorded a show, before that. So right. Tuesday night's game, there's no need to recap the whole game. It was an up and down. It was an up and down game, and it turned out to be a disaster. So in the 7th inning, Counsell tries to get an extra a couple outs out of Palencia. He proves he can't do it in high leverage. Earlier in the game, Luke Little proved that he couldn't get it done. Yeah. And then Almonte comes in after a bit. By the way, big error by Dansby Swanson in that game that didn't get talked about. And by the way, those things stick out more when you have such a thin margin for error because your pitching is struggling so much.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Almonte comes in. His box score looks great. He did not throw great.
Okay.
And, he walked a couple guys again. And then Alzolay has nobody.
All they do is walk guys.
And then Alzolay has nobody on, 2 outs after a line out and a ground out. 0-1 to Marte and just throws a spinner right over the heart of the plate to Marte. So here's what I'm going to say about the bullpen, Matt, and you could move on.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear it.
I believe that they will figure out a bridge, a solid bridge to Neris and Adbert. There is not going to be a major trade before June or July for a major high leverage guy. It's just not how the league works.
Doesn't happen.
So what you got, to me, I'm not losing sleep over Little and Palencia going down. I'm not losing sleep over Quas going down. I'm not losing sleep over Almonte being inconsistent. I'm losing sleep over Neris and Adbert struggling, because I don't believe this bullpen will be able to figure it out as a whole unless those guys figure it out. And neither one has really showed signs. Adbert's numbers are fine, but as a closer, Boog actually has been all over this really since like game 1 of the year. He needs to throw less spinners in the zone. He's got it. We've talked about it on this show. #hunt whiffs. When you're up a run in the 9th inning, it's not about getting contact. You don't want the ball in play against Marte. And by the way, apologies to Counsell. I was on him for walking Marte. He knew something that I didn't, because that guy's become the greatest hitter of all time this week.
Well, you said it. Alzolay pitches like a starter.
Yeah, he's throwing like a starter. It's 0-1 to Marte. A home run's the only thing that beats you. Work out of the zone a little bit. And I'll pass it to you. The only thing that really aggravates me when a player makes mistakes is when they do the same thing over and over again. He threw a get me over to Jankowski because he didn't want to walk him. Fine. Jankowski's not supposed to hit that over. Then 1-0, he got afraid of Tatis after throwing one of the classic Cubs two-seamers that rides way into righties, threw another Frisbee right over, homer, and then he did it again. Learn from your mistakes, or there has to be consequences. The problem is people say on these chats, hey, why is he still closing? Why is Counsell use Almonte? Because there is nobody else. Keegan Thompson's had 2 great outings, and he's just soared up the trust valve. He might pitch in the 8th on Thursday night against the Fish.
No, it's true. You're using who's on your card. I think for me there has been, especially after this win Wednesday, I am taking some solace. I believe that's the pronunciation.
Yes.
In especially that, I'm going to give you 4 names. One of them is pitching Thursday. But to have these 4 main contributors and impact players absent, and the last one just happened, but your preseason projected 1 and 2 gone. Your 8th inning guy, maybe even potential closer, gone.
Oh, he might be closing this weekend if he wasn't hurt.
And now Seiya is gone. And so that's where you can take out very easily, by the way, the optimistic lenses. If you want to look at it that way. But for all the flaws that we discussed in the offseason and the doldrums of winter, that we anticipated, that we wondered about, that maybe we were even excited about, to see how they got solved, it turns out most of these are true.
Right.
And the one especially now with an exclamation point is the bullpen. Yes, the starters working deeper would help.
Yes.
But to hold our breath this much is not normal.
Right.
And it doesn't have to do that often, does not have the appearance of a contender, the appearance of a serious team. Ultimately, the start itself, a good start, we can ultimately say.
Yep.
And wow, that's saying a lot with all their challenges. Cubs also made some roster moves Wednesday, which we're going to get to in the Cubs-Marlins preview.
Yeah, because another one might be coming.
We're anticipating, well, we know there's at least one Thursday with Tyone activated.
Yeah.
And maybe more than that.
Yeah, maybe a certain third baseman that hits lefties pretty well, and they're facing a boatload of lefties this weekend, dude.
Before that, the conundrum, or not, that is Kyle Hendricks. Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you by Policy Genius, the country's leading online insurance marketplace that saves you time and money so you can provide your family with financial safety net starting right now. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help you talk through it. They have a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you can save. policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB.
This episode is also brought to you by Monopoly Go. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. Reminds me of the Illini against UConn a few weeks ago. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, and charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go, now free on the Apple or Google Play Store.
The Cubs play the Marlins at 6:40 p.m. Central on Thursday, and you can hear every pitch of the Cubs' hometown broadcast on SiriusXM by searching Cubs on the SXM app. In his fourth start of the season on Tuesday, Kyle Hendricks allowed 7 runs on 5 hits and 4 1/3 innings. His ERA is now up to 12.71 in exactly 17 innings pitched. And before we get to any discussion with Hendricks, who has always gotten by, that probably is minimizing it, but he's gotten by with what he's had. He's excelled. He's one of the best pitchers in Cubs history. Okay, that's a preface. The other preface is Jed Hoyer on Tuesday and Tommy Hotovy on Wednesday. Again, shout out to 670 The Score. They were both guests. They both indicated that Hendricks is going to continue to pitch in the rotation. We could talk about the merits of that or whether it should happen, but that's what they teased. And that's what we should expect. Now, I do think it's on the table that someone goes to the IL when Tyone comes off it on Thursday. I know there's been a lot of discussion about Hendricks possibly having a phantom IL stint. We could whiteboard that if we want. And I want to just say this before Sam eloquently talks about one of his favorite Cubs players of all time, maybe not being up to snuff right now. Kyle Hendricks is not moving to the bullpen. Do you watch baseball? If you do and know even a little bit, then you would know he's not a fit for the modern day bullpen. Why? The modern day bullpen incentivizes velo, spin rate, and missing bats, all of what Kyle Hendricks doesn't do. And so I understand we might have in our mind that the bullpen is a natural landing spot to keep him on the team. But I do not see a path to that whatsoever, Sam.
Yeah. Here's what I'll preface my thoughts on, because I was pretty defended in Hendricks going into the year. I didn't defend Kyle Hendricks because I like him or his past. I defended him because he had a good season last year.
Really good.
That guy is not here. He is back to being the 2021, 2022 version of himself, if not significantly worse.
Yeah.
The numbers, when you dig deep into the numbers, he's just getting punished for his mistakes and fly balls are leaving the yard. As far as how it goes, it's probably at the point now where it's indefensible. If he's starting a game and Ben Brown isn't, after what Ben Brown has showcased. But with what Jed Hoyer has said and what who else did you mention? Hotovy. It sounds like he might get another start. I think the Marlins home game might be like the last shot for him.
I think it's 2 more.
Yeah, I think if he gets crushed in that game at home against a pretty below average offense, then it's just going to be writing on the wall time. But I think it's probably already there for a lot of people, just because it's not even the fact that he's been so bad. It's just there's better guys. Assad's a better option. Ben Brown's a better option. Tyone's a better option. Imanaga's a better option, and Wicks is a better option. There's 5 guys right there that are just better options.
That's the 5.
So, it's such a headache to watch him pitch right now.
I know.
It's just every inning you just feel so blessed if he gets out of it without a run,
Jeez.
and
it's wild to say that, but it's true.
And it's just, and it's the worst kind of bad because, on Tuesday, he puts him in a hole and then they get out of the hole.
Right.
And then he comes back out and re-puts him back in the hole. It's just the worst type of pitching.
Yeah.
And I just, I don't know what the plan is. It's looking like so far, it's looking like a really, really bad team opt-in. It's $16.5 million. There's nothing for them to do. They're not going to eat the money and cut him. No. Nobody's going to want him in a trade. He's not going to the minor leagues.
Right.
So, I think the only option is maybe another start or two. And if he doesn't figure it out, it's a Phantom IL. And it's, maybe a shoulder thing or whatever. And you just see for a few weeks, maybe a month. He definitely could help guys. He definitely could help guys in the pen. Not that that's what you want to,
pay. But he brings off-field value. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you just, I don't, maybe later in the year you reactivate him if you're low. It's not just because I know people are gonna aggregate your thing and quote it. You're talking. He's not a bullpen guy, and I 100% agree. But maybe they bring him in and he's just mop up only at the end.
Yeah, but no teams have that anymore.
Yeah. I don't.
That's
see
a roster spot.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Those were like the days of Alec Mills. Those days are over.
It looks like he's going to get the start Sunday.
And yes, he's projected to.
And I think
he's on the probables, rather.
And it's probably going to be it either has to be a really good start, because what's going to happen is the voice of the fans, because don't mistake it. People hear that, right? And nobody wants to see Kyle Hendricks get booed at Wrigley Field. If he gives up 5, 6, 7 runs again, there will be some boo birds, because people are just, and they're not even booing him. They're booing the decision to continue to run him out there, because he's just been.
I hope so.
It's one thing to get absolutely crushed early on. It's another thing. He's not competitive. Like to me, the biggest sign that Kyle Hendricks isn't there is in the 5th inning of that game. I think it was, I don't remember exactly the situation, but he walked back-to-back guys. I think it was Gurriel and Walker, I believe, who, by the way, is just a tremendous defensive first baseman. Man, it's fun to watch him pick it over there. And he was just so afraid to make a mistake, and it's not working out right now. No. And by the way, there might be a world where he throws really well on Sunday, but it's still going to be a very short lead. My point is, if he throws well Sunday, it doesn't really change that much. He's still not the best option right now, and that's just is what it is. I thought early in the year he just had a couple bad opponents, but the last 2 starts against San Diego and Arizona were, very challenging to watch.
Very challenging to watch. I think the competitiveness is the best launch point of discussion here, that the Cubs are in a deep hole when he pitches like that. I sure hope he's not injured, although, maybe it's a real IL. But I think that's just a reach right now. And I was trying to find an explanation. I do think it's 2 more starts. I know it's arbitrary, but something about get him through April. Yeah, I don't know what that means, but I'm just that's what I'm theorizing. So that would be the Marlins, and then the following weekend as well, like the following Friday or Saturday against the Red Sox. So yeah, it's disappointing. Never will I not root for a Cubs. I'm not going to cheer against a Cubs player, especially Hendricks. But it just seems like for him to turn this around, it needs to happen off a game mound. It's not going to happen on the game mound. There's not enough time. It's just math. If this happens every 5 days, how are you going to get it turned around? That needs to happen elsewhere.
Yeah, maybe.
That's where the phantom IL comes in.
Yeah, in an Arizona trip or something.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, but he is slated to start Sunday. Cubs play the Marlins this weekend, and we're going to preview that right after this. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. Pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and then watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season is underway, so don't miss your chance to add your favorite players to the diamond in your Prize Picks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry. Prize Picks is really simple to play, with your entries taking less than 60 seconds to submit, turning $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps of your screen. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's a first deposit match up to $100 by using code LOCKEDONMLB. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Cubs Marlins this weekend, 6:40 Thursday. We'll be live after that ball game. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all 1:20 starts. Jamison Tyone returns on Thursday. We'll face Iowa native AJ Puck. And then it goes Imanaga, Luzardo, Assad, and Cabrera, who just returned this past week for the Fish, and Hendricks and Weathers, who struggled mightily his first few years in the bigs, but is off to a nice start down south. Sam, this is a 4-game series. The 4-gamers are always a unique challenge in their own right. But I like the matchups here as much as I can, at least front loading there Thursday and Friday. And we'll see as they move along the weekend.
Yeah, I'm a little bit, I've seen some of the, some of the talk about, hey, this is going to be a cakewalk series. It's not. I don't think it is.
No. They haven't won much.
Colorado came in here. The Cubs blew the doors off them. This is a different level of a team. They've gotten off to a very, very bad start, but you're facing a couple guys. Luzardo's off to a bad start this year, but he's a good pitcher. And Cabrera on Saturday is coming off an injury. He's a good pitcher. So you're facing 2 pitchers. In fact, I think the Cubs might be underdogs on Saturday, Cabrera and Assad. I could be wrong on that.
I think so.
But they might be.
I think they will be.
Thursday, AJ Puck's been awful as a starter. He's a pretty good reliever.
The ballpark.
Yeah, he's been awful. That's a game that you got to get.
Yep.
And then if you could set the tone of the weekend with, Imanaga and Luzardo. I like that, Imanaga will be out there because Luzardo's tough. And, you're facing 3 out of 4 lefties because Weathers is a lefty as well,
right.
Which makes the Wisdom leaving AAA thing seem like he's probably imminent here. I would assume that it would be Mastroboni going down. But this is a good opportunity this weekend. This is, a team that has struggled. Don't give them any life. Offensively, obviously Luis Ariz is their top guy. He's a high average hitter. Jake Berger's on the IL. Josh Bell has really struggled to start the season. I believe Brian De La Cruz, he hits in the middle of their lineup. Former White Sox Tim Anderson is in there. There's some guys on this team. They are not as bad as their record shows. So the Cubs are going to have to play well. But I think if they play well, they should be able to come out with 3 out of 4 wins.
Julian Merriweather to the 60-day IL Wednesday, which opened up a spot for Colton Brewer, who's now up with the big club. He did well in his 7 2/3 of relief with the Cubs. Perhaps he's a bullpen option moving forward as the Cubs try to create this bridge, as we're talking about, to the 27th out. Little and Palencia did go down. Brewer got called up with Wisniewski, who obviously did well on Wednesday. But Thursday, Jamison Tyone is being activated, so somebody has to be sent down. And we're also thinking Wisdom for Mastro because the Cubs likely won't cut ties with Garrett Cooper this early, but It's on the bingo card as a possible chance, but Wisdom for Mastro seems likely. So then you ask yourself, who's going to be sent down for JMO? And it's not going to be Colton Brewer, right? Because I don't think you would waste that optionable event.
Not until
he wasn't on the 40 man.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So it's got to be Wisniewski, who just pitched Wednesday. It's part of the business. Or Ben Brown. Those are the only two options. Unless someone goes to the injured list. That's just process of elimination. Unless someone goes to the injured list, it's Brown or Wisniewski. It's probably Wisniewski.
Yeah, I mean, the Wisniewski thing would probably hit a lot of people negatively, but he's probably not available for 2 or 3 days
but teams
anyway.
do that all the time.
Yeah.
They do the shuttle.
If it's Ben Brown, I have a problem with it.
Well, will you host Thursday night if it's Ben Brown? Please go on the record.
I will
if
still
you
host.
threaten it, you can't be on.
No,
I'll get Politis or Kaz.
I will still
Ty.
host. I will host because the show's doing well.
Okay.
But if it is Ben Brown, I might invite him over, and we can watch the game. But when you say it like that, it does make me peek a little bit to the Hendricks IL part of it.
Correct.
It really, can't you just see it like an under the radar announcement at like 3:50 tomorrow or something? Whatever it is.
Well, that's when the clubhouse opens.
Hey, we're
maybe 5:40, an hour before first.
Hey, we're sending Hendricks. He's got a shoulder thing, or something. I don't know.
Maybe
it'll probably, if Wisdom's up, it'll probably be Mastro, and then of course Tyone's already going to be up. So I would guess that it's got to be Wisniewski, unless they want to send down that, because Palencia's already down, Little's already down. Man, it's a lot of roster stuff for April 17th.
I know they've used like 31 players already, something like that.
And let me say this before we go off. I know it's been a long show. I don't want to hear any of this tomorrow. Hey, it's his first start for Tyone. Hey, it's this and this. You're getting paid a lot of money. You've already missed time. You're facing an offense. Come out and give us 5 to 6 good, solid innings. If you're starting to give up home runs all over the park and talk about your mechanics and stuff, I don't want anything to do with it, all right? We've been patient with you. Your job, this team needs some veteran presence and needs a guy to give quality innings, and tomorrow you need to do it.
Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs.
None of that.
You give us 20 to 30 minutes, or today,
be patient with
33.
him.
We'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube, smash the like button for the algorithm, and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcast. We will be live after Thursday's game. Hopefully another win for the Cubs. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.
Go Cubs.